Hi, Terry here, and welcome to Times Gone Tech. So, a few years ago, scrolling through YouTube looking for something to watch on television, and I came across a rerun of an old television show called Mythbusters. And on that particular episode, they were testing the myth about could a cannon, a functioning cannon, be made out of a tree trunk? So they got themselves a big ass tree trunk. It's about 18 inches, 2 feet in diameter. They bored what looked to be about maybe a 2-inch bore down it, put some iron bands on it, tried it out, and it worked. Worked great, in fact. It worked so good, they actually wanted it to explode as a grand finale for the episode, and so they had to actually rig it to explode. The thing just wouldn't blow up on them. They doubled the charge, they tripled the charge, they'd whatever. It just wouldn't blow up. I thought that was kind of interesting, and then I ran across their other stories, historical accounts, of this kind of the same thing. There's an account of somewhere in the early American frontier where settlers made a cannon out of a tree trunk and defended their village against Native Americans, and apparently it worked. Well, then about 2 years ago, maybe, I came across another YouTube video where a man was talking about cannons in museums in Europe, real cannons. These are not fake or prop cannons. These are real historic artifacts that also were either made out of entirely non-metallic. Some of them were wood with rope reinforcing. Some were wood with rawhide reinforcing. Some had a little metal. Some had iron bands on them. Some had a metal bore liner, just a thin metal bore, tube down the bore, and the rest was wood and rawhide and stuff. And that got me to thinking, could that idea be scaled down to a handgun? We'll get to why in a second, or two or three. But I immediately ran into one major problem that when I first started doing these experiments on it, the wood handgun, I'm calling it, I failed to take into account. That was my failure. And that is, out here in the real world, things rarely ever scale up or down in a 1-to-1 ratio. It's easy to take a 2-foot diameter tree trunk, drill a 1 or 2-inch diameter bore down the center with all that wood mass around it. Of course, it's going to work, especially if, like Mythbusters, you put a couple iron bands on it to help reinforce it. That's easy. Easier said than done, but it's possible. But when we start scaling that down, if we keep the proportion, the ratio of the thickness of the wood to the diameter of the bore, by the time we get it down to something small enough that a person could pick up and hold, that bore is like a 22, caliber, or even smaller. And as a self-defense weapon, that's just not going to work. So my problem was how to keep the bore bigger to make an effective handgun with and reduce the amount of wood around it and it not go kablooey on me when I tried it. And that's why everything I tried went kablooey. I had one experiment worked one time, and then it cracked so bad during that one time that it would have been unusable after that. But it did work, and it did hit the target. Okay, now back to why. Why would we even care? Okay, so here's a scenario. Go through this one more time. Let's say that I'm a low-ranking knight, maybe the lord of a small, poor manor, isolated back in the deep, dark forest, and the villages and settlements around us are being raided and robbed and destroyed, burned by hordes of roaming bandits. The Black Death came through a few years ago, took out over half the people in Europe, and there's not much law left, and people are out just doing whatever they want. So these people got together and they're just raiding and robbing and pillaging and raping and burning as they please. Now, obviously, I want to protect my peasants, okay, and my land and my manor house. I don't have the manpower or the time and resources to put into equipping and training a standing army. Just don't have the people. I also can't afford to have all of the few able-bodied men that I have standing around practicing with a longbow all day. I need them out in the fields working. What I need are cannons, but not big ass heavy tree trunk type cannons. I need real cannons, but I can't afford to buy any. And we don't have enough iron or bronze in the village to cast any, even if anybody here knew how, which we don't. This isn't Paris, okay? This isn't London, all right? This is no-name village back out in the back out in the sticks. We're so far out in the sticks, the sun sets between us and town. That's how, and I might be a lord and I might be a knight, but I'm a lowly knight and a poor lord. So there's not much we can do. Plus, I don't want big, heavy, fixed tree trunk cannons. I need something that's small and light that people can hold, they can maneuver around with. If the bandits get massed upon a certain part of the village wall out here, I can get everybody over there fast to defend it. If that changes, tactically, I can get them together and move them somewhere else. So what I need are handguns. But again, we don't have the materials to make a bunch of handguns, and our people don't even really know how to cast a handgun. So the question is, using the materials and, within reason, the technology tools that would have been available to people back in that little village up in the mountains in medieval Europe, could we come up with a workable handgun? And I think I've done it. Say hello to my little friend. Oh yeah, baby. This is Magna Gonne. You heard of Magna Carta? This is Magna Gonne. Now you can see it does have a little metal. I learned a little bit from my previous mistakes, and I've upgraded, up-gunned, up-armored this thing, so I'm convinced it's going to work this time. So what I've done is I took a 1-inch diameter soft iron pipe, not a gun barrel, not high carbon steel, soft iron pipe, and 1-inch internal diameter, 1¼ inch outside diameter. This stock is a piece of seasoned hickory, which I took from the forest behind the house. It's been seasoning for 2 years now. Then I drilled out the bore. I set the pipe down. I drilled it out 12 inches, back to about here. Set the pipe down in it, and then I wrapped the whole thing with multiple layers of rawhide. These black dots here are just like tacks holding the rawhide in. I got some over here. Got a few tacks here and here, just kind of holding the rawhide together until it dried out. So there it is. Magna Gonne. I'm probably playing hell with my microphone too. Okay, now I'm going to stuff some paper wadding down that. Then I'm going to load a handful of 44 caliber shot. And then another bit of paper. And actually, if you want to know how full that charge is, right there's the bowl. So let me show you a little higher up on this. Right there is the bowl. The rest of that is powder. That is a lot of gunpowder. But that's what the charge says. And it actually, charge recommendation says I should go twice that. Let's see what we get. And this is what I'm going to be shooting at. Now, if you're wondering why 3 targets, why not 4? Because I only have 3. But there are no holes above or below this one, so I'll still be able to get the entire shot pattern. That's what I'm looking for, is the shot pattern. Okay, so let's light her up. I decided not to hold it on the very first test shoot. After all, discretion is the better part of valor. So I've tied it down to this sawhorse and lined it up pretty close. It seems to me like it's a little low, but when I try to raise it, it looks like it's elevated too high. So we're going to go with this. And I'm going to light the fuse up, realign the camera, and I'm going to go hide behind a tree. And it's a good thing I did. Let me show you this. First, this. Look at that. Look at that. Absolutely nothing. Not one hit. Nothing up there. Nothing down there. Nothing low. Nothing high. Well, I'll tell you, it looks like there's a fresh hit right here. And it looks like there's one right here and right here that was not there. This is the one I did on the last shoot. These two look fresh. So I thought it was looking low, but when I raised the elevation, it looked like it was too high. Apparently, it all came down low. So, what can we take away from this? Handguns are not easy to make out of anything. They are a lot more dangerous than you might think. And if you're going to experiment with things like this, you should know what you're doing or don't even try it. If I had been holding this, my hand would have been right there. And if I had been holding that when it went off, I'd be in the hospital right now missing a hand, at the least, let alone my face. Unbelievable, the damage. But notice the pipe, the bore liner did not explode. It was the force coming through the back of the barrel into the wood. That's what caused all this to blow out. So I'm going to retry this, and I'm going to put a fixed metal breech plug in here, and we'll see what that does. So the Magna Gonne will be back. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.